Hi everyone, it's Kira with Polymer Clay TV, and I am so excited about today's project. This is a really simple to make hanger that I'm going to put on the wall for, say, a scarf. When you come home from work and you want to throw your scarf in your purse somewhere, this is a perfect hook for that. And it was so easy to make, and look how pretty it came out. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's what I'm going to be using to make my project. So I have some acrylic paint in raw umber. That's for antiquing. I have souffle clay. The colors that I'm using are concrete, sea glass, key lime, and turnip. I have the set of 10 graduated circle cutters from Polymer Clay TV, the set of 6 floral stamps, and this pretty little flower double-sided press mold. And then this, which I want to share with you, one of my favorite crossover products. This is a Cuttlebug embossing folder, and they are awesome for polymer clay. Okay, they are super for adding both impressed and like popping out debossed and embossed, because that's what they have. They have a debossed side and an embossed side. It's hard to see that on camera, but you'll see it when you press it into the clay. And you can get these on sale for like $2.50. So they are similar to a rubber stamp. They are the right size if you wanted to do a switch plate or something big like that. And of course they fit over my MDF block that I'm going to use, so I know that I have enough space here to get the whole pattern. So just a fun crossover product from scrapbooking. I have a whole box full of these because when I see one that I like this pretty floral pattern, I'll pick it up. And they also have, like, the reason that I started getting into buying these is because they have holiday ones, like for Christmas and Valentine's Day, and I don't like to spend a ton of money on holiday rubber stamps because you're only going to pull them out once a year. So when they have a sale on this stuff, I'll pick up the holiday ones. So that's mostly what I have. And then I have this MDF, and I have, this is a knob that I got at Hobby Lobby. And knobs go on sale there. Every once in a while you can get them for 50% off, so that's when I stock up. So this is a Hobby Lobby knob that I got, and I am going to screw it into here when I'm done and turn this into my my little hanging rack. So I have gone ahead and drilled a hole all the way through this piece of MDF. This I also got at Hobby Lobby. I think it comes in a package with a whole bunch of them, and I found lots of fun ways to use them all. All my clay is rolled out and conditioned to a number 3, which is a medium thickness on my pasta machine. And what I'm going to do here is stamp this texture into the clay. So I'm just going to go ahead and decide where I want this, because it's going to be pretty much the same area on each thing that I do here. So I'm going to go ahead and do it like that and just press. It's a hard surface, it's not like a rubber stamp, so, and you can see what you're doing through the plastic. So I'm just going to press this. And the souffle clay is great for this because it's not a very sticky clay. So I feel like I can use my hard plastic rubbing tool here and it's not going to get all stuck and full of clay. So once you have your texture pressed in, you can just peel it off. Okay, and I have that piece done, and I'm going to do the rest. I just want to show you a couple of tricks here in case you do have the clay stick, which my yellow piece stuck a little bit, so I just want to show you. Usually that doesn't happen to me, but you know, sometimes it does. So this is your secret weapon. Get some Armor All Original Protectant. It's a silicone spray, and what I do is just spread it around very lightly on the surface of whatever I'm going to be sticking into, something that needs some kind of a mold release. When people talk about a release, this is what they mean. This stuff is nice and slick. So now I'm going to center my piece here, and then I'm going to show you how I get a nice crisp design. Oh, hang on, got to make sure I'm doing the right direction. Okay, this one. Put that over the clay, and then I'm going to take the end of my rod and use it to press. And that will make sure that I've really gotten the clay up into the mold, and see how it comes right out. Okay, so those are the three pieces that I'm going to do in the embossed look. So the clay is popping up in the design. I'm going to save the gray clay for later. And right now I'm going to take my round cutters and I'm going to start making this design. Now I have this flower and I know this is going in the middle, so I know that my middle circle, I don't want it to be smaller than the flower, so I'm not going to use those. I'm going to start with this one. And my middle color is going to be this yellow. So I'm going to take a chunk of this right out of the middle. Okay, now after the yellow, I'm going to do the red. So I'm also going to take, and this is how we're going to match things up. I'm going to find the part of the design where that is and cut around it. Mark it with my fingernail right there. There we go. So I'm going to take that out, and then I'm going to go a couple steps up because I'm looking to make a ring. And I'm leaving the middle one in there because it'll help everything not get distorted if everything is kind of left alone. Okay, so now what we have is this ring here, and we can use a tool to pull this one out and see what we have. Okay, so save that. And we're going to use this ring as the next size up. So basically what we're building here looks like this. Okay, so the different designs are going to be nested one inside the other. So for the blue clay, we're going to go roughly where that design part was taken out of the middle of that, and we're going to start with this size. Try to line this up so I can see what I'm doing here. Perfect. Okay, so that's that, and then over here we're going to go up into this flower, a little bit of there. Okay, so you can see I'm trying to match the design I'm taking out of this with the design part that I took out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and then go a couple more sizes up with my cutters here. so that I get a nice ring of blue. And in the meantime, I'm also going to check and see how big we are there. So you know what? I'm just going to go for it with the biggest. So I'm going to cut this out. Pull that one back out. Okay. So now what I have is I have rings. And then I have scrap, and I can do something with the scrap too. So this is the biggest ring, and then this smaller one, and the next smaller one. And what I like to do, and I forgot to say this at the beginning, and you don't have to do this. You could bake these rings and glue them on. But I like to take my liquid poly clay and smear it on the surface. Especially when I'm doing something like MDF, wood, chipboard, whatever it is. That was a lot of clay. I like to prep my surface with the liquid clay, which will then help the solid clay to stick to it. So I'm just going to smear my surface here with the Kato liquid polyclay. And the color I'm using is clear, but you know what? I think I'm going to add some, Sculpey just came out with some gold and silver. So I'm probably going to put that around my edges here in just a second, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so I have my piece all ready here with the liquid clay, and what I'm going to do is lay on these pieces. I'm going to start with the biggest because I want to sort of make sure that that's centered, and then go down to this red one and the yellow one. So try to match up these designs. To go. Okay, so this flower here, it's kind of like putting a puzzle back together. Okay, because I am actually trying to match up the designs to where they were to begin with. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You could do 3 separate different designs if you wanted to. I just felt like it would be fun to sort of puzzle piece this back together. Okay, so now I have those. And then my next idea was to take this gray clay and stamp it with these stamps. Just take my favorite ones. And use this little guy to create these pieces, which then I can use around the edges like so. I'm going to take care of that in a second. I'm not going to leave it like that. Okay, so cut out 4 of those. Okay, so this is what we have, and the pieces are stuck to here with the liquid clay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this over and quickly just cut off the excess gray clay. Now, because the screw here is considerably longer, taller than my plaque that I'm going to screw it through, I am going to make a little flower to take up some of the distance there. So I'm going to use my flower press to create a little thick flower. And these are so easy to use. You just put your ball of clay in one side, stick the other piece over, and smush. And then it creates a three-dimensional flower that has something on both sides. And if you're not, completely thrilled with how it looks, because to me that's a little too simple, I'm going to go ahead and just add a little detailing, maybe press the petals in a little further, maybe even round them out a little bit more. You get the idea. You can do so much to something after it's molded just by using your own hands and tools. So I always think of molds as ways to get myself started. And then, you can customize it a little bit. Because I'm not, the flower is not the focal point of what I'm making, I'm not going to worry too much about it. But there, see? It's a little different from what came out of the mold, and I like it. And I'm going to get rid of this center because my screw is going through there. So I'm going to make this a nice big hole and use your screw thing here as a judge of how big that hole needs to be. Rather large to get a screw through it, a bolt. Okay, and then we're going to find the hole here on the other side of this and do the same thing. Make sure that this hole is going all the way out where it needs to be, so that afterwards we can stack this whole thing together. I'm not going to bake the flower on here. I'm going to just screw it onto here. I think it'll be easier for me to not try to bake it on, because I'm nervous that if I bake it on there, then I might have some little issues with placement or how big the hole is or whatever, and it'll just be easier for me to deal with it if I leave them as separate pieces. Okay, here's my bottle of the new Liquid Sculpey in silver. And this is the first liquid Sculpey product to come out in a long time. And I'm using silver and gray because my fixture here is silver. So this also comes in gold. I know Elisa has used it. She used it in her project for Polymer Clay Adventure this year, and she really liked it. So I'm just going to squeeze some of this out and spread it with a brush. And if you use brushes with your translucent liquid clay, then just remember that that's going to be a clay dedicated brush, because it's not going to be compatible with paint anymore. There's like oils and things in here that are, you just don't want to get them on your regular paint brushes, because it's really just never going to come out. So here is a liquid clay dedicated brush that I have. And I'm just going to spread this out and let it do its thing. And what I like to do is let it sit for a little while, because it will self-level a bit and not be so sort of lumpy looking. That's just because it's a very thick liquid, and if I were to just slap this on and bake it, I'm sorry, I'm getting out of screen. If I were to just slap this on and bake it, it'll still be sort of lumpy. But if I let it sit for a little while, I'd say maybe half an hour, it will all smooth right out and be real nice and shiny, and then you put it in the oven and it stays put. So I'm going to go ahead and do all 4 sides and let it sit, and then I'm going to bake all of these pieces and be back to show you the finished project. All right, here we are out of the oven, and I just wanted to show you here. I work in a really tiny oven, a toaster, and sometimes there are hot spots. So My suggestion is always to tent your work with some tin foil, which I didn't follow my own advice today. So I have this little dark area, which I'm not going to worry about because I'm about to antique the whole thing with brown acrylic paint anyway, so that's not going to really show up. Antiquing is really easy. You just put some paint down, scrub it in to the whole piece with a nice stiff paintbrush. You especially want to get it in all of the cracks of your piece. So you want it all over those stamped areas, along the sides. Basically, you want it everywhere, but you want to make sure you're getting it down inside the cracks and along all these like edges. Okay, and then you're going to take a rag and wipe it back. So I like to do a quick wipe, followed by another quick wipe, and you want it to stay in the cracks, so you don't want to wipe too much of it off too vigorously. You want to watch what you're doing as you get down to this step where you've got some paint left on the piece and you might be in danger of taking too much off. And then I'll switch to a finer rag and just gently make sure it's off all the high points. I want to expose that silver along the edges, so I'm going to make sure that I'm really getting it off of there. And only letting it stay in the deep parts, in the cracks. And there you have it. And the antiquing part of this is really a lot of times what makes a project come together and look finished, is when you give it that finishing touch. So now I just have to let it dry and then stack up my parts and pieces here in the middle, which this is perfectly, whoops, gonna fit on here. I tested it before I baked, and it's actually gonna be great because it's gonna thread through so it won't slide around. And then I'll thread it through here and attach the nut on the back and a hanging piece of hanging hardware, and I'll be all ready to hang a scarf on it. Okay, so here it is assembled, and I realized that the edges of my MDF board were just kind of exposed wood. So I got out my Inca Gold metallic rub in silver, and I added that to the edges and a little bit on the medallions on the sides there to really bring them out. Tie it all together with the silver fixture there, and look how great that looks. So now all that's missing is just a little, I'm going to put a one of those saw hook things there to hang it on the wall, and it'll be all ready to use. I hope you enjoyed Polymer Clay TV this week, and as always, come on back next time. Every Wednesday we have a new tutorial.